My wife cheated with my best friend and got pregnant, so I destroyed them both without mercy. There was a time when I thought my life was the kind of thing people envied, not because I was flashy or rich, but because I had what most people spend a lifetime searching for: a solid marriage, a home filled with laughter, and a best friend I could count on. Olivia and I had been married for 5 years, and sure, like any couple, we had our ups and downs, but I never thought for a second that the downs would be enough to ruin us. I remember the way she used to look at me in the beginning, that gleam in her eye, like I was the center of her world. We had built our lives together, brick by brick, through sleepless nights and endless dreams. I worked long hours at the firm, but I made sure Olivia never felt neglected. Friday nights were our thing, movie nights with Chinese takeout, her head resting against my chest as we watched the same rom-com she loved, even though I could barely tolerate them. Daniel was part of that life too, my best friend since college. If there was one person I trusted outside of my marriage, it was him. We met during our first year of university, bonded over late-night study sessions and our mutual hatred for calculus. Through the years we remained inseparable, standing by each other's sides through job losses, heartbreaks, and even my wedding. He was my best man, the guy who gave the toast about how I was the luckiest man alive to have found someone like Olivia. Back then, I agreed with him. I was lucky, but luck, I would soon learn, is the most fleeting thing in the world. It wasn't like Olivia and Daniel spent an unusual amount of time together, at least not at first. They had known each other for years because of me, and they got along, maybe too well. I used to joke that Olivia and Daniel had their own secret friendship, given how often they'd tease me, tag-teaming in conversations. It never bothered me. If anything, I was grateful my wife and best friend got along so seamlessly. Then, little things started to change. Olivia began pulling away in ways I couldn't quite put my finger on. Our conversations became shorter, more distant. If I reached for her at night, she'd turn away, murmuring about being tired. Her phone, which used to be casually left on the nightstand, was now always face down, notifications silenced. I noticed, of course, but I brushed it off. Every couple goes through phases, right? We were busy, we had our own stresses, it was nothing. And then there was Daniel. He started canceling our usual weekend basketball games, claiming he was too swamped with work. He barely returned my calls. And when we did hang out, something was off. It was in the way he avoided my eyes, the way he cut conversations short. Looking back now, I hate how naive I was, how easily I accepted their half-hearted excuses, how I ignored the signs that should have been screaming at me. But at the time, I trusted them both with everything I had. So, when Olivia started working late more often, when she came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, I convinced myself I was imagining things. I told myself I was being paranoid, overthinking things because of work stress. The house was dark when I arrived, no sign of Olivia, no message explaining why she hadn't come. I sat on the couch, waiting. Midnight came and went, my phone remained silent. It wasn't until past 2 a.m. that I heard the front door creak open. Olivia walked in, her heels in one hand, her hair slightly disheveled, her lips swollen in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I didn't say a word, I just watched as she froze in the doorway, realizing I was still awake. "Oh," she said, as if I were some inconvenience she hadn't expected to deal with. "You're up." I stood. "Where were you?" She hesitated just for a second, but that second told me everything. "Work ran late," she finally said, brushing past me. "I didn't have my phone." Lie. I could feel it. The words were too smooth, too rehearsed, but I didn't push, because some part of me was still clinging to the illusion that everything was okay, that this woman, my wife, the person I'd built my world around, wouldn't betray me. If I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have let it slide. I would have demanded the truth right there, that very night. But I didn't. I let her walk past me, let her climb into bed, let myself believe that things would go back to normal, that everything was just a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. It was the beginning of the end, and I was the only one who didn't see it coming. I don't know how long I stood in the doorway, watching Olivia walk past me like I was nothing more than an afterthought. Maybe it was seconds, maybe minutes. Time didn't feel real in that moment. She didn't even look at me as she tossed her heels near the door and made her way upstairs. I heard the rustle of her dress being pulled over her head, the soft thud as it hit the floor, the bed creak as she climbed in. Like it was just another night. Like she hadn't just spent hours in another man's arms. I didn't follow her, not right away. Instead, I sat on the couch staring at the flickering light of the television, some late-night show I wasn't paying attention to. My mind felt like it was splitting in two. One part of me, the logical, rational side, knew something was terribly wrong, that the woman I had vowed to spend the rest of my life with was slipping away. But the other part, the desperate, delusional part, It kept whispering that maybe I was overreacting, that I was tired, that I was stressed, that I was imagining things. So I convinced myself that I just needed to talk to her, clear the air, fix whatever was broken before it was too late. I turned off the TV and made my way upstairs, my footsteps careful, measured. Olivia was lying on her side, her back facing me. Her breathing was steady, but I could tell she wasn't asleep. "Liv," I said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. No response. I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. She flinched. That one movement, small, barely perceptible, shattered something inside me. I swallowed, my throat dry. "Can we talk?" A heavy sigh, then she turned over, finally looking at me. Her expression was unreadable, detached. "What is there to talk about?" she said flatly. I blinked. "Our anniversary, for starters." She closed her eyes briefly before letting out another sigh. "Michael, I told you, I got caught up at work." "Without your phone?" She hesitated for just a second before shaking her head. "I was busy. I didn't think to check it." Lie. I knew it, she knew it. The air between us felt suffocated, heavy with everything we weren't saying. "Liv," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Are you? Is there someone else?" For a moment I thought she might deny it, that she might laugh, roll her eyes, call me ridiculous. But instead, she went quiet, and in that silence, I got my answer. My chest tightened, my breath coming in short, shallow bursts. My hands clenched into fists on my lap. "How long?" I asked, my voice hoarse. She didn't answer. I forced myself to look at her, really look at her. The way her lips were slightly swollen, the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine lingering on her skin, the exhaustion in her eyes, not the kind that comes from work, but from a different kind of exertion. I stood abruptly, my body thrumming with a rage I could barely contain. "Who is it?" Another silence, and then, "You don't want to know," she said, her voice almost gentle. I laughed, a short, humorless sound that felt foreign even to me. "Oh, I promise you, I do." She sat up, running a hand through her hair. She wouldn't meet my eyes, and that's when I felt it, the slow, creeping realization. She wouldn't meet my eyes because I already knew, because deep down, I had known for a long time. A sickening dread pulled in my stomach. "Olivia," I said, my voice dangerously low, "tell me right now." She took a deep breath and then, "It's Daniel." The world tilted. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, my breath knocked out of me. I had braced myself for the worst, but even my worst expectations hadn't prepared me for that name. Daniel. My best friend, my brother in all but blood, the man I had trusted with everything. For a moment, I was convinced I had misheard her, that my brain was playing some cruel trick on me. But she was looking at me now, and there was no mistaking the truth in her eyes. It was him. It had been him all along. I took a step back, needing space, needing air. The room suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in on me. My heart was hammering so hard in my chest I thought it might explode. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to demand how, why, but all I could manage was a whisper, "How long?" Her lips parted, then closed again, as if she was debating whether to tell me the truth or spare me the final blow. Then she exhaled and said, "A year." I nearly collapsed. A year. My best friend, my wife. For an entire year they had been betraying me behind my back, smiling in my face, pretending. And I, idiot that I was, had welcomed it, had welcomed him into our home, had called him my brother. A strangled sound escaped me, half laugh, half sigh. I had been played. I had been a fool. I looked at her, at the woman I had vowed to love until death do us part, and realized I didn't even know who she was anymore. "I want you out," I finally said, my voice hollow. Something flickered in her expression, something almost sad, but she masked it quickly. "That won't be necessary," she said coolly. "Daniel and we're moving in together." My stomach twisted. "You're what?" She stood, smoothing out her dress, like she hadn't just ripped my heart out of my chest. "I fell in love with him, Michael," she said, "and we're expecting a baby." Silence. For the first time in my life, I understood what true devastation felt like. I stumbled backward, my legs weak beneath me. She reached for me then, as if to offer some pathetic attempt at comfort. I flinched away. "Get out," I said again, my voice shaking now. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. And just like that, she walked away, leaving me standing there, shattered beyond repair. I stood in the middle of the house, my house, staring at the empty space where Olivia had been just moments ago. The weight of her words pressed down on me like a crushing force. Daniel. She had chosen Daniel, my best friend, my brother in all but blood, and they were expecting a child. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms, the sharp pain grounding me in reality. This wasn't a nightmare I could wake up from. This was my life now, a cruel joke. I staggered toward the living room, my legs weak, my chest heaving with every breath. I needed to sit down, to process. But how the hell does anyone process something like this? 1 year. For an entire damn year, the two people I trusted most had been making a fool out of me. Olivia had been sleeping beside me, smiling at me, telling me she loved me, while she was carrying on an affair with my so-called best friend. I let out a hollow laugh. I had been so blind. The sound of movement upstairs snapped me out of my daze. I pushed myself up, taking unsteady steps toward the staircase. Olivia was packing. My wife was packing up her things to leave me for Daniel. I should have stopped her. I should have screamed, demanded answers, thrown her out myself. But I didn't. I just stood at the bottom of the stairs listening to the rustling of fabric, the occasional clink of her jewelry box. It was surreal. Then she came down, a suitcase in one hand, her other resting gently on her stomach. Her stomach. I couldn't look at her. She hesitated for a moment, as if debating whether to say something. Then, with a quiet sigh, she finally spoke. "You'll be okay, Michael." I let out a bitter chuckle. "Oh, will I? Thanks for the reassurance, Olivia. Really helps." She flinched, and for a brief second, I thought I saw guilt flicker across her face, but it was gone just as quickly as it came. "Daniel will pick up the rest of my things later," she said softly. I clenched my jaw. Of course he would. That coward hadn't even bothered to show his face tonight. Probably afraid I'd knock his teeth out. Or I should have. Instead, I just nodded stiffly. "Fine." She looked at me one last time, her eyes filled with something I couldn't name. Then, without another word, she walked out the door. And just like that, my marriage was over. I stood there, frozen, listening to the sound of her car engine roaring to life. It wasn't until I heard her drive away that the dam finally broke. I collapsed onto the couch, my chest tightening, the weight of everything crashing down on me all at once. My breaths came out in sharp, ragged gasps. I had lost everything. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the wall, my mind an empty void. Minutes? Hours? Then my phone buzzed. I grabbed it, half expecting, hoping that it was Olivia, calling to say this was all some horrible mistake. It wasn't her, it was Daniel. I stared at his name flashing on the screen, my pulse pounding. My hand shook as I pressed answer. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he sighed. "Mike, man, I'm sorry." I hung up. I couldn't listen to him, not after what he had done. I wanted to scream, to break something, to drive to wherever the hell they were, and make him feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. But what would be the point? She was gone, Daniel had won, and I was nothing but a broken man sitting in an empty house. The days that followed blurred together. I didn't go to work. I didn't answer my phone. I barely ate. News of Olivia's affair spread quickly through our social circle. Some people reached out offering their condolences, like I had just suffered some tragic accident. Others, people I once considered friends, acted indifferent. One of Olivia's friends had the audacity to text me, "You should be happy for them. Things like this happen. Maybe you and Olivia weren't meant to be." I stared at the message, my blood boiling. Happy? Happy that my wife had thrown me away like garbage? That my best friend had stolen her right from under my nose? I deleted the text and blocked the number. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Until the knock at the door. I opened it expecting another pity visit from one of my CO workers. Instead, I found Sophia, Daniel's ex. She stood there, her arms crossed, her lips curled into something that was almost a smile. "Hey, Mike," she said, tilting her head. "Looks like we're in the same boat, huh?" I blinked at her, still in a daze. Sophia. She let out a short, humorless laugh. "Surprised to see me? I figured we should talk. You know, about the two people who screwed us over." I stepped aside wordlessly, inviting her in. I had no idea then that this moment, this conversation, would change everything. Sophia stepped into my house, the house Olivia and I built together, the one where we had spent years making memories, now reduced to nothing more than a shell. She glanced around, her sharp eyes taking in the half-empty wine bottle on the coffee table, the unopened takeout containers for meals I had no appetite to eat, and the mess I hadn't bothered to clean up since Olivia left. "Well, you look like hell," she said bluntly, dropping her purse onto the couch. I let out a dry laugh, rubbing my temples. "Yeah, well, what do you expect? My wife left me for my best friend." Sophia scoffed, crossing her arms. "Correction, ours left us for each other. You're not the only one who got burned, Michael." I looked at her properly for the first time. Sophia had always been striking. Dark hair, piercing eyes, and the kind of presence that commanded attention. But now, there was something else in her expression, something sharp. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice hoarse from days of drinking and silence. She smirked. Because I'm not the kind of woman who lets betrayal slide, and something tells me neither are you. I frowned, shaking my head. What are you talking about? I'm talking about them, Michael, she said, leaning forward. Olivia and Daniel. They didn't just betray us, they humiliated us. And you're just going to sit here and let them win? I let out a bitter chuckle, sinking onto the couch. What the hell do you want me to do, Sophia? Storm their house and drag them out by their hair? She raised an eyebrow. Tempting, but no, I have a better idea. I exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over my face. Sophia, I'm not in the mood for whatever revenge fantasy you're cooking up. I paused, my throat tightening. I just need to get through this. Sophia sighed, but her expression softened just a little. I get it, Michael. Believe me, I do. The first week after Daniel dumped me for your wife, I was a mess. But then I realized something. I'm not the one who should be suffering. They should. I shook my head. And how exactly do you plan on making them suffer? She leaned in, her voice low and steady. Daniel's business is struggling. I blinked. What? Her lips curled into a slow smile. He doesn't talk about it much, but I know things. His company is barely staying afloat. If we play this right, we can make sure he loses everything. I should have ignored her. I should have told her I wasn't interested in revenge. But something inside me, something dark and wounded, leaned forward. Go on, I said. Sophia grinned. I knew you'd see things my way. Sophia left that night, but her words stayed with me. I tried to go back to normal, to pick up the pieces of my life and pretend that I could move on. But normal no longer existed. The next few weeks were a blur of anger, drinking, and sleepless nights. I ignored calls from work, dodged concerned messages from the few friends I had left, and barely ate. One night, I found myself driving past Olivia and Daniel's new place. It was a nice house, big, probably one of those overpriced places in a gated community. I could see the warm glow of their living room through the large windows, and then I saw them. Olivia was curled up on the couch, her head resting on Daniel's shoulder. He was stroking her hair, whispering something that made her laugh. My stomach twisted. That should have been me. That was our life. Our future. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They didn't look guilty. They didn't look like people who had just destroyed someone's life. They looked happy. That was the moment something inside me snapped. The next morning, I called Sophia. Tell me what you know about Daniel's business, I said, skipping the pleasantries. She sounded pleased. I was hoping you'd come around. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, away from prying eyes. Sophia laid everything out. Daniel's company was bleeding money, investors were pulling out, his biggest clients were losing faith. And if things continued the way they were going, he'd be bankrupt within a year. All we need to do, she said, stirring her coffee, is give it a little push. I frowned. And how exactly do we do that? She smirked. We make sure his biggest investor pulls out, permanently. I let out a slow breath. And how? How do we make that happen? Sophia leaned in, her eyes gleaming. Leave that to me. While Sophia handled Daniel's downfall, I focused on rebuilding myself. I threw myself into work, accepting a new offer from an investment firm that happened to be one of Daniel's biggest competitors. Mr. Hargrove, the CEO, took a liking to me. Within weeks, I was climbing the ranks, earning a reputation as one of the most promising strategists in the company. I hit the gym, cut out the alcohol, and worked harder than I ever had before. And slowly, I started feeling like myself again. Only I wasn't the same man Olivia had walked out on. That man had been weak, gullible. That man had been destroyed. The man I was becoming, he was going to make them pay. 3 months later, Daniel lost his biggest investor. Sophia had played her role perfectly. She had convinced the investor that Daniel's company was too unstable, too risky. The fallout was immediate. News spread, clients started backing out, and Daniel, he was panicking. Olivia had no idea what was happening. As far as she knew, their life was perfect. She was pregnant, playing the role of the doting fiancé, planning her new future. Meanwhile, Daniel was scrambling, desperate to keep everything from falling apart. He had no idea that the person pulling the strings, the person ruining him, was the man he had betrayed. And this was just the beginning. I wasn't going to stop until I took everything from him, just like he had taken everything from me. The shift was subtle at first. Daniel started showing signs of stress, bags under his eyes, erratic movements, a sharpness to his words that hadn't been there before. I knew because I watched every move, every misstep. I didn't just want him to suffer. I wanted him to feel it, to know what it was like to have everything you built crumble beneath your feet. Olivia, oblivious as always, continued playing house with him. She had no idea that the foundation of their new life was rotting from the inside. And the best part? She didn't even see me coming, setting the trap. Sophia and I met in a high-end restaurant downtown. She looked radiant, dressed in an expensive black dress, sipping a martini like we weren't plotting someone's downfall over appetizers. "You've been watching him," she noted, smirking. I nodded, stirring my whiskey. "He's slipping." She leaned forward, her voice lowering. "Good. Now we speed things up." I raised a brow. "How?" She grinned. "You have Hargrove wrapped around your finger now, don't you?" I exhaled, nodding. Mr. Hargrove, my boss, had become something of a mentor to me. He respected my insight, trusted my instincts, and best of all, his firm was one of the biggest investment players in the city, which meant we controlled the narrative. "I think it's time we feed him some bad intel," Sophia continued, swirling her drink. "Make sure the right people hear that Daniel's company is on its last legs. Push it over the edge." I smirked. "You're ruthless," she grinned. "And you love it." She wasn't wrong, the execution. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with Hargrove. We sat in his office, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. "You've been keeping an eye on Whitmore Capital?" I asked casually, referring to Daniel's company. Hargrove leaned back, crossing his arms. "I have. It's been struggling, hasn't it?" I nodded. "More than they're letting on. Their revenue stream is drying up, investors are getting nervous." Hargrove raised an eyebrow. "And how do you know this?" I leaned in slightly, my voice steady. "Let's just say I have sources." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "If what you're saying is true, this might be the right time to pull the plug on any partnerships we've been considering with them." I took a sip of my coffee, masking my satisfaction. "Probably a smart move," I said. It was done. With one conversation, I'd planted the seed. By the time the whispers reached the right ears, Daniel's business would take a hit he wouldn't recover from. And he'd have no idea where it came from. Cracks in their perfect life. A week later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Daniel had lost another major investor. His company was officially drowning. And the best part? He had no clue I was behind it. I imagined him sitting at his desk, staring at spreadsheets that didn't add up, watching as his so-called empire burned around him. He had stolen my wife, now I was stealing everything else. But I wasn't done yet. No, I wanted him to lose more. I wanted Olivia to start doubting him. The beginning of Olivia's regret. I ran into her by accident, or at least that's what she thought. It was at a small cafe near my office. I had made sure to be there, knowing she frequented the place. She was sitting alone, her baby bump more noticeable now. Someone better. I sharpened my mind just as much as my body. Work became my battlefield. I put in longer hours, took on bigger projects, and within months, my reputation at Hargrove's firm skyrocketed. Clients requested me by name. Executives nodded in approval when I entered a room. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And the best part? They had no idea. While I was climbing to the top, Daniel was sinking. Sophia kept me updated. Every few days, I'd get a text or a casual remark over coffee. "Sophia, he lost another contract today." He looked like he was going to throw up in the office. "Sophia, investors are pulling out left and right. His company is bleeding." "Sophia, rumor has it he's starting to panic." I would read those messages and smile. It was happening. Everything I had set in motion, the whispers in the right ears, the lost contracts, the financial strain, was finally tightening around his neck. And the beauty of it? He still had no idea it was me. Then came the part one had been waiting for, the part where Olivia started to see the cracks. It was slow at first, a missed dinner because Daniel was working late, more like scrambling to save his company. A tense conversation in public where she reached for his hand and he pulled away. A tired look in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. But I was watching. And Sophia made sure to keep me informed. One night, she called me, her voice laced with amusement. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Try me." She let out a chuckle. "I ran into Olivia today. That got my attention." "Where?" "The doctor's office. She was alone, no Daniel in sight." My grip on the phone tightened. Her pregnancy checkup, I'm assuming? I could practically hear the smirk in her voice. She looked miserable, Michael, like she was finally realizing that she traded gold for garbage. I exhaled slowly, leaning back in my chair. "Good." Sophia laughed. "I wish you could have seen her face when I told her I had a new boyfriend." That made me pause. "You did what?" She giggled. "I may have hinted that my life is so much better now that my new guy treats me like a queen." I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. "You're evil. And you love it." I didn't deny it because she was right. Because while Olivia and Daniel had spent the past year playing house, I had been busy, building, plotting, becoming untouchable. And now it was time for the next step in my plan. The mall encounter. I hadn't seen Olivia in months. not since that night at the lounge where I made sure she saw just how well I was doing without her. So, when I turned the corner at the mall and saw her standing there, holding a baby stroller, I almost laughed at the irony. She was pushing a sleeping infant, her hands gripping the handle a little too tightly. She looked tired, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. Her clothes, while still stylish, didn't have that effortless elegance she once carried. This was not the Olivia I had once known. And when she looked up and saw me, her face went pale. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. I smirked. "Olivia," she swallowed, blinking rapidly. "Michael," her voice wavered. I could see the storm of emotions behind her eyes, shock, regret, something dangerously close to longing. I let the moment stretch, savoring the way she squirmed under my gaze. Then I made my move, reversing the power dynamic. I glanced at the stroller. "So, this is the child you threw everything away for?" She winced. "Michael, don't." I cut her off with a chuckle, shaking my head. "Relax, Olivia. I'm just making conversation." I let my eyes sweep over her, deliberately slow. "You look different." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's been a long year." I tilted my head. "Has it?" She exhaled sharply, looking away. "You wouldn't understand." I laughed, a deep, genuine laugh that made her flinch. "Oh, Olivia, I understand more than you think." Her gaze snapped back to mine, searching my face for any sign of weakness, but there was none. The man standing before her was not the same man she had left behind, and she knew it. I could see it in the way she hesitated, the way her fingers twitched nervously against the stroller. She had expected me to be broken, bitter, pathetic. But instead, I was thriving, and that realization was killing her. The final blow. I could have ended the conversation there. I could have walked away, leaving her stewing in her regret. But where was the fun in that? So I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice just enough to make her hang on every word. "I heard about Daniel." Her shoulders stiffened. "What about him?" I shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "That his business is tanking, that he's drowning in debt, that he's not handling the pressure well." Her face paled even more, confirming what I already suspected. Their perfect life was anything but. I smirked. "Didn't take long, did it?" Her breath hitched, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But then, the moment I'd been waiting for finally arrived. She whispered almost too softly, "I made a mistake." Boom. There it was. The confession, the regret, the proof that I had won. I let her words hang in the air for a moment, then chuckled, stepping back. "Yeah, you did." Her eyes snapped up to mine, a flicker of desperation in them. "Michael, I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Save it, Olivia." Then, as if the universe had scripted this moment perfectly, Sophia appeared at my side. She wrapped her arm around mine, her smile bright and knowing. "Hey babe, sorry I took so long." I turned to her, my smirk widening. "No problem, sweetheart." Then I kissed her, a slow, deliberate kiss, just long enough for Olivia to see. When I pulled away, Olivia looked like she had been slapped. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in her life, Olivia was speechless, and that was the sweetest revenge of all. I took Sophia's hand, nodded at Olivia, and without another word, walked away, leaving her standing there, drowning in her own regret, exactly where she belonged. I walked away from Olivia with Sophia by my side, feeling lighter than I had in over a year. For the first time, I wasn't the one left standing in the wreckage. No, this time it was Olivia who looked like she had been sucker punched. And damn, it felt good. But I wasn't done yet, because the next phase of my plan, that was going to be even better. The aftermath of our encounter. I could feel Olivia's eyes on my back as I left the mall with Sophia. She was stunned, hurt, jealous, and I wanted her to sit in that feeling. I didn't need her back. I didn't want her back, but I wanted her to want me back, to crave the life she threw away, to realize that she had lost the best thing that ever happened to her. Sophia must have sensed it too, because as soon as we stepped into the parking lot, she let out a satisfied laugh. "Well," she mused, leaning against my car, "that was fun." I smirked, unlocking the doors. "Did you see her face?" Sophia grinned. "She looked like she wanted to crawl into a hole." I nodded, feeling an odd sense of vindication. Olivia had made her choice, and now she was realizing it was the wrong one. Olivia reaches out. I knew it wouldn't take long. That's the thing about people like Olivia. They always come crawling back when it's too late. Sure enough, 2 days later I got a text from an unknown number. I already knew who it was before I even opened it. "Olivia, can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my smirk widening. She had no idea that she was playing right into my hands. I didn't respond immediately. I let her stew in it. An hour later, another message popped up. Olivia, please, Michael. It's important. Oh, now it was important. Where was this urgency when she was shoving me out of my own house, when she was choosing Daniel over me? I took a sip of my whiskey, debating whether to ignore her completely. But then, I had a better idea. I responded, meet me at the Grandview Cafe, 6 p.m., no questions, no explanations. I knew she'd come, because she needed to. The meeting that changed everything. At 5:55 p.m., I was already seated at a corner booth, casually scrolling through my phone. At 6:02 p.m., Olivia walked in. She looked nervous, her eyes scanned the cafe until they landed on me. And when she finally met my gaze, I saw it. Regret, longing, desperation. I gestured to the seat across from me, keeping my expression unreadable. Have a seat. She hesitated, then obeyed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She just stared at me, as if she was still processing how much I had changed. Finally, she broke the silence. You look good, she said softly. I smirked. I know. She flinched slightly, but I didn't care. I wasn't here to comfort her. I was here to watch her crumble. She swallowed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Michael, I raised a hand, cutting her off. Why am I here, Olivia? She exhaled slowly. I needed to see you. I leaned back, feigning boredom. Why? She hesitated, then finally said the words I had been expecting. I made a mistake. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I just tilted my head, pretending to be intrigued. Oh. Her eyes searched mine, as if looking for some shred of the man who once loved her. Too bad that man was dead. I thought Daniel was the right choice, she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. I thought we had something real. I raised an eyebrow. And now? She looked down at her hands. Now I realize I was wrong. I let the words settle, watching her squirm. Then, I delivered the final blow. That's too bad, I said, my voice cold, unbothered, because I moved on a long time ago. She froze, her lips parted slightly, but nothing came out. She had expected me to welcome her back with open arms, to forgive, to give her another chance. But I wasn't that man anymore. And now she had to live with her choice. I stood up, tossing a few bills onto the table. Take care, Olivia, I said, turning to leave. And as I walked away, I didn't look back, because I had won, and Olivia. She was nothing more than a painful lesson I would never repeat. Walking out of that cafe, I felt weightless. For the first time in over a year, I wasn't haunted by Olivia's betrayal. I wasn't drowning in anger, in heartbreak, in the endless cycle of what-ifs. No, I had just watched her break, watched her finally understand the cost of her choices. And the best part? I felt nothing. No sadness, no pain, not even a flicker of nostalgia. Because Olivia wasn't my problem anymore, but Daniel. Daniel was about to become one. Daniel's world starts to crumble. A few days after my meeting with Olivia, Sophia called me. The second I picked up, she was laughing. You're not going to believe what I just found out, she said between chuckles. I smirked. Try me. She exhaled, amused. Daniel's company is officially done. He's drowning in legal trouble, unpaid debts, and get this, his investors are suing him for fraud. I leaned back in my chair, grinning. Oh, that's beautiful. She hummed in agreement. I knew you'd appreciate it. I did. Because while Olivia was busy regretting her life choices, Daniel was paying for his sins in full. And the best part? He still had no idea I was the one who had orchestrated every single part of his downfall. But he was about to find out. The desperate phone call. It happened 2 days later. My phone buzzed in the middle of the night. I frowned, glancing at the screen. Daniel. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then, out of pure amusement, I answered. Hello? I said lazily, suppressing a yawn. There was silence for a moment, then his voice came through, shaky, exhausted, defeated. Michael, he choked. I need help. I bit back a laugh. Help? Help? After everything he had done? I leaned back against my pillow, smirking. Oh? And what exactly do you need help with, buddy? He let out a shaky breath. It's my company, man. I don't know what happened, but... Oh, you don't? I cut in smoothly, feigning surprise. Wow, that must be tough. He hesitated. Michael, please. I'm drowning here. Investors pulled out, the legal fees are piling up, and Olivia. He stopped abruptly. Now, as I sat back and watched Daniel's empire collapse, I realized something. Revenge wasn't just sweet, it was addictive. Because every time I heard his name associated with failure, every time I caught whispers of his bankruptcy, legal battles, and desperation, I felt a deep, satisfying sense of justice. And I wasn't done yet. Not until he had nothing left. After that late-night phone call, Daniel disappeared from the corporate scene. Sophia kept tabs on him, feeding me updates every few days. Sophia, he's trying to negotiate with his creditors. It's not working. Sophia, investors are demanding a full audit. If they find what I think they'll find, it's game over. Then the final nail in his coffin came, a fraud investigation. Turns out, Daniel had been cooking the books for years, manipulating financial reports to make his company look more profitable than it was. Once the authorities caught wind of it, it was over. His assets were frozen, his company was officially shut down, and Daniel. He was broke, utterly, completely broke. No savings, no backup plan, no way out. I had made sure of that. It didn't take long before Olivia tried to reach out again. I saw the first call come in, her name flashing on my screen like a ghost from a past life. I ignored it. Then came the texts. Olivia, Michael, please, can we talk? Olivia, I know I don't deserve it, but I need to see you. Olivia, I made a mistake. I smirked at that last one. Too little, too late. She had made her choice, and now she was living with the consequences. I let her messages sit there, unanswered, while I went about my new life. Because I wasn't the same man she left behind, and she was nothing but a regret I no longer cared about. Just when I thought I had heard the last of him, Daniel showed up at my office. I was sitting in my high-rise corner office, overlooking the city, when my secretary buzzed me. Secretary, sir, there's a Daniel Whitmore here to see you. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smirk spreading across my face. Me, send him in. A moment later, the door opened, and there he was, Daniel Whitmore, the man who had once stolen my wife, my home, my peace of mind. Now he looked like a ghost of himself. His suit was wrinkled. His face was unshaven. His once confident posture was slumped in defeat. I let him stand there for a moment, drinking in the sight of his humiliation. Then, I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. He hesitated before lowering himself into the chair, his hands trembling slightly. I folded my hands together, tilting my head. To what do I owe the pleasure, Daniel? He wouldn't meet my eyes. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, as if searching for the right words. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. You're really not going to help me? He whispered. I smirked. No, Daniel, I am not. Then, with a final glance at the broken man before me, I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. He hesitated for a second before standing up, slowly. Then, with slumped shoulders and the weight of his own betrayal crushing him, he walked out of my office. And just like that, Daniel Whitmore was nothing. And I was finally free.